Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Ryan, you're the only one that came tonight, but that's okay because these sessions are always recorded. So you can always, if you can't make the live session, you can always listen to the recording. So good evening. And I want to just start off by maybe going over a few housekeeping issues. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hold on, give me 1 second. Let me get this going. Right there, that's what I want. All right, so here we are on our course homepage. Ryan, I'm actually glad that you're here because you can help me make sure that what I think is sharing is actually sharing. So hopefully you can see our course homepage. Is that right? Is that correct, Ryan? You just type it in the chat box. Hi, Michaelin. Hello. Glad you're here. So I'm currently sharing our screen right here, my screen of our course homepage. Michaelin, are you able to see this? I'm assuming that's a yes. Yeah. No worries. Okay. So here we are on our course homepage, and I just want to tell you what is going on this week. So there's a couple of ways that you can get to the content area of our course. You can click right here on the word content, and that'll take you to the content area, or I normally put a link in an announcement. Okay, either one of these ways will get you to the content, and it will show you what we are working on. Here's the content right here. Of course, this first module right here is our live learning sessions link to get into our synchronous session. That's the session I'm in right now. And then the second thing you have here is the session recordings. So here's the one from last week. If you're looking for that, here it is under live session recordings. Okay. In the Start Here orientation module, this is the module that has the course syllabus. And remember, on the course syllabus, we have, as I scroll down to the bottom, here's our course schedule that talks about the different topics we will cover and what chapter in your e-text, your OpenStax e-text, you should be reading, and then the week that we are studying this. Okay, there's also the grade breakdown right here. So lots of really good information in the syllabus, so I hope you read that. The next module that you see is the first unit that we're working on, and it's called 3 Worlds Meet. So as I click on this, I see that there are 3 modules, 3 weeks here. The first one being Converging Cultures, which is actually this week. I don't have the date here. I just realized that I don't have the date, but it's this week. Okay, so that's what we're going to be working on this week. These other 2, you don't have access to those yet because they have not occurred yet. The only one you have access to is the one that we're working on this week. Okay. Now, if you click on this Converging Cultures overview, this is going to tell you what to expect in this module, what we're going to be doing this week. So here's a little bit of information about what Converging Cultures is. Here are the objectives for working this week's module. These are the things that I hope at the end of the week you're able to do and learn. And here's a task list. So here's a task list of all the things that you're going to be responsible for, from reading the OpenStax chapter to watching some video lectures and then doing an assignment and then a quiz. Okay, so if I come back up here to the converging cultures, it'll bring me back to this module, and then I can click on what we call the content topic page. Okay, so this is actually how you learn the information that I want to teach you this week. Okay, and of course there's a start here, give you a little more information about this particular. That's fine, Ryan. I appreciate you trying to be here. No worries. What we're working on this week, okay, how it impacts us today. Here is a direct link to your OpenStax chapter. Okay, so if you click on this, I'm actually going to open it up in a new tab. And I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this or not, but this will take you right to the chapter. Okay, so you can read what you need to read there. And I'm telling you to read chapter 1. Okay, so when you click on this, Michaela, can you see the chapter, the OpenStax? Can you see that on the screen? Okay, good. So it tells you right here, this is what you should be reading, is chapter 1. Okay. And then I provided a couple of video lectures, yeah, 2 of them, of the different topics that we're talking about this week. The migration of peoples to the Americas, Native American culture, African culture, and European culture. Okay, so really good videos. And if you click on this, you can
Hi everybody.
start.
Today what we're going to talk about,
It's interesting, my captions. These are closed captions. So
is converging cultures.
Yeah, there we go. You can read through these. I intentionally don't make these very long, so they're only 30 minutes, and I think this one's even shorter. Yeah, this one's 18. Certainly, if you want closed caption, you can click that right there. Okay. So give those a look. Here's some key terms and names that you may want to pay attention to. I think it's safe to assume anything that you see on these pages, anything that you see or hear in the lectures, and certainly anything that you read in OpenStax is fair game for showing up on a test. So as we get closer to midterm, where you'll have your midterm exam, which will cover everything up to the week of midterm, and you ask me for a study guide, I'm going to say to you, go back and look at the content topic pages in each week, okay? And, know what these different items mean, okay? I like to usually provide some additional resources. So here are some articles. I will go ahead and say that usually, unless I specifically say the additional resources will not be part of the test, these are just some articles that I found interesting. And if you want more information about these topics, you can certainly click on these and get that information. So here again, under assignments and activities is your OpenStax reading chapter again. And then there are direct links to two assignments that are due at 11:59 this Sunday. Your Converging Cultures assignment, which is something about 8 questions, I think it is, that you will write on a Word document and upload that to Cougar Review. And then here is the Converging Cultures quiz that you can take. Okay. So if I go back into the module, those are the things that you need to do this week. Now I have set us up a checklist. This is for you, just because I know sometimes people like to check off everything that they do. So if I click on this checklist right here, I will see that last week, if you did these, you could check these off. Okay, here are the converging cultures. When you do these, then you can check those off. So this is a really good way for you to know what assignments are due each week. Okay. Hopefully there's no questions about that. I will say that one of the places you will not find the assignments is, and what's listed for the week is on the Cougar View calendar. I don't put assignments on the Cougar View calendar. I do know that last week there was a little bit of a problem with some assignments showing up on there, like this one. Okay, but as you can see, that's actually something that I've opened up for somebody. As you can see, there are no assignments listed. Okay, and the reason for that is I don't use the calendar. I want you to go to content and read what is available to you for that week. That's how I want you to find out what you have to do in this course. Okay? So please do it that way. That's how you can best work this course. Go to content by either clicking on content up here, or I usually put a link in an announcement. Now, if you'll notice that on today's announcement, and I posted this, had it open up today at 12 a.m., I say to everybody, the grade book has been updated. Please check your grade and let me know if you have any questions, okay? So what that means is all of the assignments that were due last week have been graded. The grade has been posted. And if you did not do the assignment or I didn't receive the assignment, you got a 0 for that. So it's very important week to week that you go and check your grade and make sure you're getting credit for the things that you do. Okay? If for some reason what the grade that you have, or if you didn't get a grade, if there's a concern, I encourage you to reach out to me. Okay, please let me know what your concern is, and I will respond to you. Okay, so this is how this is going to work each week. Also, on Wednesdays, I will also post the link for the live learning session if you can come to that, and I hope that you can. Okay, so are there any questions? This is much easier. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to go to the other. Let me pull the other up. All right, let me pull that up and share that. Okay. Hopefully now you see my PowerPoint presentation. Okay. So I do want to talk a little bit about where we are and what we're studying. We're starting off with what some know as prehistory. We're taking a look at the migration of peoples to the Americas. And the reason or the purpose for this is that this kind of gives us a starting point in U.S. history. We're looking at the different cultures that came into this area that we call the United States and actually made up the people of the United States. And so we start off by showing that Native Americans descended from Asians and probably started migrating to North America approximately 15 to 30,000 years ago. Through your reading, there's a couple of questions here. Michaelan, you're the only one here, so you're the only one that can answer. But as you're reading, I think it's interesting. This is not my favorite time period in history, but I do think it's interesting that scientists are able to determine the origins of ancient peoples. And so as you're reading, you may interest you also, and you may wonder, well, how do scientists know this? And so the quick answer to that is they study the skulls, the bones, the teeth, and the DNA of ancient peoples, and then they trace their ethnic and geographic origins. They often use what's known as radiocarbon dating to determine the age of objects. Scientists also study the history of the Earth to understand how people moved from one area to another. Okay. I think that's an interesting tidbit of prehistory. Like I said, this isn't my favorite time period, but as you probably have known, that as people move through down through North America and throughout history, people changed. They went from being nomadic, where they were always roaming, to settling down and um, only moving with the seasons, and then eventually settling into small settlements, civilization. So another question that kind of interests me is, how did the shift to agriculture allow early peoples to advance beyond just merely surviving? And the answer to that is, through agriculture, it allowed people to stay in one place. So here is where they were able to stop and plant food and store their harvest. Because people stayed in one place, permanent villages began to be established. Village life led to the construction of homes and the development of storage containers, even the development of pottery and branding to, distinguish one clan or one tribe from another. And through this shift, specialization of skills and a more complex form of government started to emerge. So as we read on in our chapter, we talk a little bit about Native American cultures. And as the Native Americans moved down through North America, it's interesting to ask or ponder how Native Americans responded to the different climates in the American West. Because in the American West, there's some very dry areas. And Native Americans found crops that would grow in these dry areas or dry soil. As they were moving from place to place looking for food. In the coastal areas of the West, Native Americans became experts in fishing. In mild climates where wildlife like bison were plentiful, they hunted, and they also trapped animals. And so as they progressed on, what technologies did Native Americans in the far north develop? These are more in the northeastern areas. And here, you're going to find a lot of your Native Americans are going to develop technology type tools such as the harpoon, the kayak, the dog sled, boots with ivory spikes. This is far north is about the Alaska area, where the Inuit Native Americans currently live. Goggles and lamps and things to adapt to their survival. And then also the woodland natives, they were able to move a little bit further east in what we now know as the United States. And they practiced slash and burn agriculture to clear the land and then turn around and make it a little more fertile. So another group of people who came in as people of the United States were the Africans. And so in our study, we will look at West African civilizations, Islam. Ghana is another country that we're going to read about in our studies. It's interesting because the continent of Africa, largest continent in the world, and has a vast desert. And this allowed for some of the different travel that occurred during this time. So my question is, why were camels better than horses for traveling, or oxen for traveling in the desert? And I think it's pretty obvious why camels were able to step up to the job. Is, they could carry more weight, they could walk farther each day, and go longer without water than either your horses or your oxen at that time. So that facilitated a lot of the different trade that Africans engaged with people in the Far East. And so people of Ghana, one of the biggest empires in Africa, eventually peaked and then also started to decline. So what was the reason that they started to decline? Well, the short answer is that the land was exhausted and farmers could no longer feed the people. So it just, the turnover was just a little bit too much for that entire area. And then lastly, we have the European cultures that eventually come in. So Europeans expanded their culture going south into Africa and also east through what we now know as the Crusades. And so if we're looking at the Crusades and how what the effects of the Crusades were on Europe, you could say that the Crusades helped change Western European society by increasing the demand for luxury goods from Eastern Europe and the Middle East and Asia. These luxury goods were being bought and transported back into Europe, and so that was one of the effects on the Crusades on European culture. Finally, we have some new technology, some new discoveries as people in Europe begin to create new states and then some new technologies. They also start exploring. Prince Henry the Navigator being a person who was spearheading a lot of the exploration on the sea. And so my last question here is, how did Prince Henry the Navigator encourage exploration? And so he set up the Astronomical and Geographic Studies Center. He invited map makers and astronomers and shipbuilders to come there and to study and plan voyages of exploration. So certainly what the Europeans are doing is they find these luxury goods in the East, but getting to the East is pretty difficult when you're on a camel going through the desert. So what they're trying to do is find a water route to these eastern lands. And as we probably know, we learned this back in middle school, they will eventually go sail west with Christopher Columbus, and they will think they're in the east, but actually they're going to be in what we call the New World. Okay. I'm just about done. I never want to go more than 30 minutes at these sessions. Michaelin, do you have any questions for me about anything that we've talked about here? No? Okay. Are you okay with the assignments that are posted for this week? I mean, you're okay with knowing where to find them? Do you have any questions about that? I'm more than happy to answer if you do. Sorry, I know you hear my dogs. They're misbehaving. I think they just really want to go outside. You're okay? All right. Well, I'm not going to keep you any longer than necessary. I appreciate you coming. Thank you for that. Certainly, if you have any questions or need any additional information, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is pretty much all over the syllabus and the course itself. But if you don't have anything else for me, then I will say good night. I can stop sharing too. I will say good night and thank you again for coming.